Hi friends, it's Ellen here. Welcome back to my channel for another episode of Through Their Eyes. And for today, I'm going to go ahead and talk about Albus Dumbledore. And as we're aware, he was 115 when he died. So this video is going to be a little bit longer as he had a lot more history. Now, to start out with, he was the oldest of three children. His younger brother, Aberforth, and his little sister, Ariana. And they were all born to their parents of Percival and Kendra Dumbledore. Now, for the first few years of their life, they were fine. They were the ideal wizarding family. Up until little Ariana made the mistake of playing with her magic in the garden. Three Muggle boys saw her and attacked, fearful of her magic. And it left her serious damage both mentally and physically, where no longer could she control her magic, but came out in violent and random outbursts. In her rage, Percival went after these Muggle boys and attacked them the same way they harmed his daughter. However, as we're seeing in Fantastic Beasts, children who have these violent and random outbursts are severely prejudiced against. They are seen with fear and hate. So in order to protect his daughter, Percival kept quiet on the reason why he attacked the Muggles. He didn't want to lose his little girl. So he was sent to Azkaban for life. And as we're aware through Harry Potter and Rita Skeeter, the press for the Wizarding World is horrible. They'll twist and mangle anything and everything just to make sales. So Kendra had taken her three kids and went to Godric's Hollow. They had moved there to avoid the press, and for a while it worked. They moved on and created a stable life for themselves. Up until Albus graduated from Hogwarts. Unfortunately, he had planned to go around the world to explore and to be a young person. Unfortunately, the day before he was set to leave, Ariana had an outburst and killed their mother. Now, this created a sticky situation because Aberforth had to go back to Hogwarts. He couldn't just lose his education. So Albus canceled his trip and spent time with Ariana. He unfortunately felt trapped. No longer could he explore the world and learn like anyone else. He is now bound by family obligations. And everything was kind of stagnant for him. He had moved on with his life in a very stated pace. Up until he met a very charming man that lived down the way. As we all know, his name was Gellert Grindelwald. And now, you see, Gellert offered Dumbledore the promises of the world he wanted. He gave Albus the idea of how wizards could be out in the world, how they could do magic freely without hiding anymore, that Muggles would be subjugated, buried down. And in my personal opinion, I believe that Albus had a very small hatred of Muggles, because in his mind frame, it was their fault for everything. If the Muggles had not attacked his sister, she would not have had these violent and random outbursts. His mother would still be alive, and his father would have never gone to Azkaban. And he would have never been trapped in Godric's Hollow. So he fell in with Gellert, and they created all these plans. They made a blood pact in order to prevent each other from causing any harm to each other. Whether or not Gellert did this to protect himself against a very powerful wizard, or they truly loved each other and just never wanted to risk anyone causing them harm to each other, it's up in the air. But right before they can create their masterful plans and seek out the Deathly Hallows and become the Masters of Death, reality came a-knocking. For that reality, it was Aberforth saying, okay, how are you going to do this? Ariana has to be taken care of. I am in school. I can't play babysitter. So unless you take her with you, these plans aren't happening. Gellert was in a rage. He did not want his plans to go to waste because of some insignificant thing. Now, a huge fight, as we know, broke out between Aberforth and Gellert. Albus jumped in, trying to equal out, trying to stop them. It didn't happen. Now, little Ariana, seeing this mass of fighting and spells, jumped in, trying to stop them. Unfortunately, a stray spell hit her and killed her. As we are aware, even after Albus's death, we're not sure who killed her. We don't know if it was Aberforth, Gellert, Albus himself, or maybe even Ariana had a magical outburst and it killed her. We don't know. But this small event caused irrefutable harm to the whole group. Albus lost that connection to his brother Aberforth. Even after his death, we see there's no love lost between them. They're basically strangers to each other, right, even up till the end. Now, the relationship he had with Gellert was equally as over. They couldn't get over it. And Gellert fled. He left England. Now, as we see, Dumbledore went and became a teacher at Hogwarts, where he eventually meets Newt and sees his passion for everything and helps him prevent him from getting expelled. And during this time frame, he also meets young Tom Riddle. In my opinion, the big issue with Dumbledore's perspective is he couldn't see the hate, the cruelty in Gellert that he's now seeing splash across newspapers around the world as Gellert waged his war against the Muggles and other wizards. So when he was confronted with this cold and cruel child, he demanded himself to see this as who he was. He didn't dig for a root cause because, in his eyes, he failed to see it in Gellert. But now he can see it in this child. And I think that caused to a lot of mistrust and hate towards Tom Riddle. Not because of experiences of Dumbledore himself experienced, but lingering mistrust of his blindness related to Gellert. Now, decades later, as we're aware, he ends up beating Gellert in a duel and locking him in Newmengard Castle, or Newmengard Prison as it's known later on. And we're bringing forth towards the wizarding world where he sees this cruel and evil child had grown up, and in his mind, it was justified. He had become Voldemort. He had caused the first wizarding war. And so he tried everything he could. He caused and chased every little lead he could in order to stop Voldemort. Up until he heard that prophecy from Trelawney. Now, I think this is a low probability. I think he was so desperate to stop Voldemort to take action that he never took with Gellert. That he endangered lives that did not need to be sacrificed. As for the greater good, I hate that saying, but for the greater good, he was willing to risk the lives that needed to be risked. So he put the Potters under his little cloak and made a secret keeper of them. And then made sure Peter Pettigrew was the secret keeper, and Sirius Black would act as the decoy. And the Longbottoms stayed in their very secured home. Now, I think Dumbledore was aware that Voldemort had to choose which child, and I don't think he was surprised when he chose Harry. But he was surprised when Harry survived. Now, when we see Dumbledore finally meet Harry after this incident, I think Dumbledore sensed a part of the darkness that lingered in Harry's scar. Do I think he knew it was a Horcrux? No, I don't. However, he did leave him with his Muggle family. And I think a part of him, a very small part, mind you, didn't want Harry to grow up as Voldemort or Gellert did. Didn't want him becoming that cruel child. So he left him with his family, hoping for the best. As we are seeing, the Dursleys treated Harry horribly. Whether or not this was part of Dumbledore's plan, I'll leave that up to you to decide. But for Me personally, I don't think it's true. I mean, we've seen the damage it caused him with Lil Ariana's attack. I don't think he would risk it again, having Obscurio develop. However, as we've seen, it left Harry very sacrificial in a way. I think when Harry told him about his situation, and at this point in the first movie or first book, whichever interpretation you want to go with, I believe Dumbledore knows that Harry is a Horcrux. And I think in his eyes, he knows that this little boy is going to have to die someday. And yes, his home life is horrible. But in his mind, it was for the greater good. Harry had to suffer. He had to be willing to walk to his death in order to kill Voldemort whenever he returned. So he kept his secrets. Kept telling him, oh, when you're older, we'll go over everything, I promise. And he never told him the truth. I think in Dumbledore's mentality, yes, it's horrible that it has to happen to Harry, but better Harry die than the thousands of people that he could spare, as he didn't spare with Gellert. And his ability to save the one person back then cost thousands their lives. So now he's not taking that chance. He's going to offer Harry up as a lamb to slaughter in order to kill Voldemort and save thousands. Do I think he planned to die? Ever? No. I think what happened was when him and Harry went to get that ring, he was shocked. As we're aware, he went and when he was younger, him and Gellert were planning on finding the Deathly Hallows. So they were well aware of the symbol here, people. So when he saw the Gaunt ring, saw that symbol, he realized what he held in his hands. The Resurrection Stone, which would give him a chance to see his sister and apologize for everything he did and didn't do. Not only his natural desire, but probably a compulsion or two added to the ring made Dumbledore slip that ring on in his desperation. And when the curse activated and started to kill him, he didn't want to go that way. He didn't want to give Voldemort the satisfaction that he killed him, that his genius plan worked. So Dumbledore decided to get a little tricky. He made it where Snape would kill him, as he didn't want to sacrifice Draco. Which is weird if you think about it, because he was willing to sacrifice Harry, but hey, what's one kid to another? And so, in order to save Draco from not only having to kill him, but having to be killed by Voldemort when he failed, he planned with Snape to have himself killed. And as we've seen, he was killed and fell off the astronomy tower. I think the biggest issue with Dumbledore was he let his past control him so much that it left to very hard and cold decisions later on in his life. And it all stems back to Gellert Grindelwald. Because you see, with his inability to see the cruelty, the coldness in Gellert in the beginning, made him see just that in Tom Riddle Jr. My opinion, he refused to see any deeper because he didn't see in Gellert, so he of course is seeing it now. And then later on, like I said previously, Harry was suffering. He was in a cruel home that did not love him. But Dumbledore can't bring himself to try and save Harry. Not in the end, when he had to die in order for Voldemort to die. Because he made that mistake before. He made that blood pact in order to save Gellert. And it cost him not only his sister, but it cost thousands of people their lives as Gellert waged his war. I think this is what caused Albus Dumbledore his worst damage. Because in his mind, he tried. He tried every aspect he could, but he knew history was making him clean up his mess. I think he hated himself. Because like I said, he never would have probably wanted Harry to go through that, to live in a loveless home. But I believe, like I said, by the first book or movie, that he realized what Harry was. And there wasn't anything he could do. It was either sacrifice one or sacrifice thousands, and he made his choice. Do I think it's a little odd that he chose the motto of his ex? Yes, I agree. That's a little weird. I'm not entirely sure why he did it. My personal opinion, he couldn't let Gellert go completely. It's why he didn't kill him in their duel. He still loved him. He might regret it to the bottom of his heart, but he loved him, I believe, up until the moment he died. So with that, I think it kind of crippled him for the rest of his life. Because now he was distrustful and couldn't believe anything around him. I think the only one he truly trusted, especially during Voldemort's reign of terror both times, was Snape. And the only reason he trusted Snape was because he was a dead man anyway. As we're aware, he swore an unbreakable vow to protect Harry. However, Harry had to die for Voldemort to die. So in the end, Snape was destined to die, no matter which way the war ended. It was either let Harry live, thus Snape lived, or have Harry die, which would kill Snape, but Voldemort would also die. And I think this was the reason why Dumbledore trusted Snape so completely, because he would quite literally take his secrets to the grave. Now, I've seen a lot of theorists out there on YouTube, and I'm sure you all have heard about the Dumbledore's death theory. I'm not going into that, but I do see a string that connects these four men, I guess you can call them, together. Due to his inactions with Gellert Grindelwald, Albus Dumbledore forced his hand and treated Tom Riddle Jr. with suspicion and mistrust and a little bit of fear. And I think this even includes his prejudice towards Slytherin House. Because when he saw cunning and ambition, he linked that to Gellert. Because, yeah, I know, you can't relate to everyone. I'm a Slytherin myself, and the stigma everyone gets with Slytherin House just because we had Voldemort is crazy. But it does show in his blind favoritism towards Gryffindor through the whole series. And for that, I think it caused a lot of issues. Not only did it lead to the rise and eventual fall of Voldemort, I think it also caused the same damage with Snape as well. He saw a kid that's in the same situation as Harry, and not a very good home life, and his one good friend. He allowed his prejudices for Slytherin and Gryffindor to cloud his judgment. So the Marauders, who, don't get me wrong, I love them. Minus Wormtail. Him and Umbridge could be locked in a room. No. For the Marauders, as much as I love James, Remus, and Sirius, they were bullies. Cruel, hateful bullies. Almost as bad as Dudley Dursley. But they got away with a lot of the stuff they did because of Dumbledore's bias. I think I ran off track a little bit. Anyway, my main focus of this whole video was all the issues and decisions that we see with Dumbledore through the Harry Potter series and now through the Fantastic Beasts series are because he willed himself to be blind to Gellert's darker side. And now it's tainted every decision since then. It ruined him. From the very core of his being, he could no longer trust or believe anything he's seen. And I think that was the harshest thing that could ever happen to him. And it honestly breaks my heart a little bit that even up until his old age here, he could not move past the mistakes that he had once made. Anyway, that got a little heavy there. Now, for my next video, I'm kind of up in the air about whether to do Snape or Draco. So please comment below and help me decide which one I'm going to do. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a great day.